Hi, it's Bruce. I want to do a quick review of Passing Strange. We saw it this afternoon. Earlier in the week I was thinking you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming to Passing Strange because there's been a lot of negativity on a certain talk board. And some people have liked it. I got some emails saying that they liked it. People liked it. So someone actually, friends of ours, were offered tickets and wanted to let us go with them, and so we went down today, had a lovely brunch at Un Deux Trois, and saw Passing Strange, which I actually liked. A guy named Stu did, I think, about everything, book, lyrics, co-composer, and it's sort of his life. I have to say I like the first act better. I thought the second act sagged a little about the Berlin section in there. It gets a little, could have cut it down. I personally would take out the intermission, cut it 20 minutes, and make it like a 100-minute show or something. But, you know, I can't tell artists how to function. Anyway, we really did like it, and we love the cast, especially, well, Stu. Stu is a big presence there. And Daniel Breaker, who looked terribly familiar, and then I looked and we had just seen him in Cymbeline earlier in the season. And what a versatile guy. He plays Stu as a young man, and he's funny, and he sings, and he moves really well, and he's funny. And I just want to give, the whole cast is great, but I want to point out, you know, I always have somebody on stage I like go, oh, well, he's really good. And a young man making his Broadway debut named Chad Goodridge is remarkable to watch. He's danced and sang and had great characters, and all in all, I recommend Passing Strange. It's rock, and it moves you, and I really liked it. Now, it's Oscar night tonight, and I want to give you a little clip of a dream I had last night. Okay, I'm about to go off on William Goldman's book again. This season. I'm still reading it, and had quite a lively discussion on all that chat about the first chapter about the faggot splitting by in the Judy Garland episode. So I'm really enjoying it. I love the Sandy Dennis chapter, and it's really good. I wonder what would have happened if there was if the season that he was writing about was actually an excellent season. This season is marked by the biggest hit is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern so far. And the only musical to have opened of note was Henry, Sweet Henry, which I would have loved to have seen. Anyway, so it's a really interesting book, but now I got to the chapter on Edward Albee and everything in the garden, and the chapter is entitled Homosexual. And I don't know, I just have a hard time with Goldman and homosexuals. He starts out by saying that Edward Albee's play, which Richard Barr, the producer, says, we're talking about Everything in the Garden, and it's a play by Giles Cooper that was adapted by Edward Albee. And Richard Barr, the producer, says, the use of money is the theme of the show, and Edward Albee says, it's a condemnation of upper middle class America. I want this to be a WASP indictment. So that's coming from the producer and the playwright, but William Goldman says it's not about these things. The play makes three essential statements in Goldman's eyes, and that is all wives are whores, all husbands are panderers, and the only wisdom lies with bachelors and young boys. Read homosexuals. So, if you don't know the play, it's about a suburban wife and her husband. They don't have any money, and she winds up whoring in town for a couple days a week, and it turns out all the neighbors are whores too, and they all come over to a party, and it turns out all the husbands know about it. But the Goldman is indicting Edward Albee for making homosexuality the theme of this is preposterous, because first of all, the original play was written by Giles Cooper, and really the themes are of the lack of money and how people who want more money, trying to keep up in the suburbs, would go and do it. Of course, it turns out to be whoring, and the major characters are. That doesn't mean all wives are whores. William Goldman is jumping at these things. My other favorite line in this, to show you that, because I sort of had this thing about that faggot wasn't a compliment when it was used, fags and stuff, and some people disagreed with me who didn't live back then, I think. But Goldman says, generally the homosexual doesn't have to hide quite as much as he once did. Well, that was true. But they were still hiding, because he also says, around the theater there is a general knowledge about most of the homosexual community, but so many are married, and so many of those who are married have children that it's almost a case of only their hairdresser knows for sure. In other words, Goldman's saying you even can't come out in the theater. So really, you couldn't. That's my point. Anyway, I do like this book, but every time he starts talking about homosexuals, it works my last nerve. All right, I hope you're all having a good weekend, and see you later. I have no idea what I'm seeing next. I'm just obsessed with getting back to work and sitting at that desk. Bye. Hello, it's Saturday, February 23rd, and I'm almost finished with the William Goldman book. I've been reading it on the subway, so it takes a long time. And I'm going to say one more comment about it before I put this subject to rest. And I had to wear my feather boa for it. It's a chapter on a play called Staircase by Charles Dyer, starring Milo O'Shea and Eli Wallach. Since I'm an old queen, I've got to put on my reading glasses. But this is just another thing about homosexuality in the 60s and why I'm glad I lived through it and past it. Staircase was about two older homosexuals who battled back and forth and wound up finding that they needed each other in the end. Anyway, Goldman says Staircase tells us that something that the bulk of the heterosexual audience does not want to hear. Or believe. Hear or believe. Homosexuals are human. I'm glad they were realizing it. No matter how unsettling we may find them, no matter how low they may stand on any of our value scales, they are human, they are people, they are, in other words, just like us. Then Goldman says, this is a difficult and unpleasant truth. Well, that's all I want to say about William Goldman talking about gays in the 60s. I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm just saying, I just wish it wasn't so, and I wish that he would have been a little more open to help bring homosexuals up as normal people, not that we were unsettling truth. All right, that's the end of my William Goldman diatribe, and tomorrow I'm going to see Passing Strange, and I'll go back to being a butch critic. A commentator. I ain't no critic. All right, well, have a good Saturday, and I'll give you a short review of Passing Strange tomorrow, because I've just gone on too long with the Goldman.